Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.
This review covers Revell's Jeep Wrangler Rubicon kit, number 85-4053. It's a skill level 4 kit in the old system, but quite frankly, it's designed so well that just about anybody could put this kit together if they're careful. So, to begin with, of course, Jeep was kind of born out of World War II around 1941, and they continue to make the Wrangler model. That's a separate body and frame, and has rigid live axles in front and rear. Now, it can be driven without doors. It has a full flat windshield, and it's just a good time vehicle, as everyone probably knows by now. In 1/25th scale, this kit is about 6 inches long, 3 inches high with the racks, and 2.5 inches wide. And it was molded in white plastic with clear parts, metal axles and springs, water slide decals, and some soft vinyl tires. There's about 92 pieces. Now, there will be some light mold lines on the body that need to be addressed, but as you can see from the contents here, it's pretty nicely designed. Now, the decals are crisp and clean, very colorful, and the register is excellent. And there are some big ones there, however, that may need some setting solution to settle properly on body. Construction starts with the frame and exhaust, so go ahead and glue the exhaust into place. There's some locating pins there, and by the way, as a reminder, we'll be using liquid cement mostly, sometimes super glue, but always scrape paint or chrome off of the parts that you're going to join together for a good bond. So go ahead and put that exhaust into place on the frame. Now, we're going to paint the frame flat black and do a little detailing on the engine, which is molded in, the exhaust, transmission, and the fuel tank with some silver there, and then also some black and brown washes on those metal parts to bring out the highlights and features. Find the pieces for the transfer case, that's parts 32 and 33, and assemble those with some liquid cement and paint it steel or aluminum color. When that's dry, go ahead and assemble the transfer case into the frame. The locating pins are different sizes, so it only goes in one way. Grab the springs and screws and some of the driveline parts here and paint them black. And then I added some body color accents to some of these pieces just for show. So go ahead and glue those radial arms, etc. into place. And before you paint those, look for any ejector pins, marks, and now put the springs on the spring perches there. There's 2 per axle, and then use the 4 screws with the large heads to attach the axle to the frame. Pay attention to the hooks on the axles, as they need to be placed in there first before you rotate the axle into place and screw it into position. Now locate the wheel assembly pieces, the tires, the wheels, and the axles. Tires may need a little bit of cleanup. There's some sprue attachments there, and then you can rough up the tread area by just rolling the tread on a flat piece of 220 grit sandpaper. I painted the accent trim rings here with body color, and as you can see on the back side, and then the wheels are a tight fit. Also, the hole sizes on each side of the wheel are different, so they only go in one way. So go ahead and assemble those, and then put an axle into one side of the front or back, doesn't matter, they're the same tire. And then you may need to tap that in. Also, by the way, warm up those tires before you insert the wheels to help assembly. They're pretty tight fit. Now, when you put the axles through the chassis there, go ahead and tap that in on the other side very lightly. Use a piece of wood or plastic on the other end to make sure that you don't punch through the tire or the wheel. We can work on the interior now, so grab the pieces for the front seats and assemble the front seat backs to those, and clean up the edges with some sand sticks, etc., and any ejection points or screw tabs. Now we're going to assemble all of those, so 56 and 7 are the rear seat portions, so go ahead and assemble those as well. And then we're going to install those into the place in the floor pan. There's some bumps in there, and they're pretty easily placed. We'll also grab the shifter, that's part 30, and the emergency brake handle 31. Now gather up the sidewalls and the firewall there. And then we're going to start with the firewall with the notches facing up and the pegs are down, and glue that into place in the front, right where it's located. Then add the side panels, and there's 3 contact points there. First, the tabs on the front will lock into the notches on the firewall, and then the panel locks into the tabs in the floor pan near the front seats. And finally, there's a rear locating pin at the back of the floor. Now paint the assembly flat black and detail it as you see fit. I went with a two-tone black and light gray with green accents to match the body. Now we'll use these parts to assemble the dash along with the steering column and the wheel and the passenger grab bar there. So locate these pieces onto the dashboard, and they all go in with different hole sizes and locations and D-plugs, so you can't put them in wrong. After that's done, paint the unit flat black. Now test fit the dashboard there to make sure that it fits and looks correctly positioned before we paint the unit. Glue the dashboard into place between the side panels of the interior there and the notches provided. And there's the 2 tabs there on the side of the dash and slots that are cut into the side panels for that location. Next, we've got a nicely detailed roll bar, and so remove the sprue tabs and clean that up and any seams that you'll find on those, and go ahead and assemble the unit. It's pretty simple, 3 pieces. And now you can paint and glue the roll bar into position on the floor pan, and the interior is basically complete. As I mentioned, added a little detail by making the seats and door panels a light gray, and added some green body color accent stripes there, and detailed the radio screen and buttons with some, red, blue, silver detailing. Now you can also fine detail the instrument cluster with the decal, so add that as well. It's time to do some more test fitting to marry the interior to the chassis. Now there's 6 mounting pins, 2 in the front and the middle, and 2 at the rear. And on my kit, I had to spread the front of the floor pan out a little bit to get the pins to line up. So you may have to do a little stretch in there, but locate those and then go ahead and glue it into position. So get these parts out for assembly of the front end grille and headlights, etc. There's a little bit of raised ejector pin flash here that you should remove on the back side of the grille. You can see there where the pencil marks out there. There's 2 of them inside of the headlights on the back side. Glue the lenses in with some white glue, and then you can actually use some regular glue to put the headlight rings, the nacelles, into position there as they're far enough away from the actual headlights. We can turn our attention to the body. As you see here, it has been painted. I used some neon green, and after a light coat of primer, a couple of nice coats of green, and it doesn't take long. There's not much body there. And then added the decals. Once again, plenty of warm water to do that. And these surfaces are pretty much flat, so you may not need it, but in case you do, have some setting solution handy there to make sure that the decals nestle into the body shell. Scrape off any of the paint that gets in the way of your glue contact points, and go ahead and add the grille and the windshield assembly into position on the body. Let's do a little test fit of the body to the chassis, and there's a couple of locating tabs in the back. There's 2 of them there that you need to lock in first, and then carefully just kind of wiggle and lower the front down over the chassis there. Now the roll cage will not lock in quite yet. You'll do that later on. So locate the step bars for the side there, and then the screws that are used. So we're going to use the locating pins, and they're different sizes, so it'll only fit correctly. But go ahead and paint those black, and then you can glue them in to the underside with this, and then add the screw. go ahead and find these parts for the light bar and the lenses and the mounts there. So first glue the lenses in to the light bar, nacelles, and then add the mirror to the bar mount. Then the lights then are glued to the bar mount. Now finally you glue the entire assembly into the windshield frame and lock the roll cage in at this time along with that, and paint the unit black. We'll be working with the door trim pieces and the flares, fender flares, etc., and the handles. Most of these will be painted flat black to add to the exterior of the Jeep. So here you see what it looks like with all of the exterior pieces added, the mirrors, etc. There, and they've been painted black as a match to the rest of the vehicle, and she's looking pretty good at this point. Now there's some detailing that we need to do on the rear end, and get out the tail lights. There's two of those, and the exhaust tip. That's part 70 in the bumper, the license plate frame, and the fuel cap. You can use a little clear red to detail the tail light lens there, and then the bumper, of course, is black. Add the license plate bracket, that's black too, and the exhaust tip, and the back end is done. Time to work on the front end now. And so go ahead and grab the bumper and the winch and the skid plate, and we're going to paint those flat black, and then install the winch. And the details there are done with by dry brushing the winch cable and the fair lead with some dry brush silver paint. Just kind of touch that across the edges to bring that out. So glue the winch to the bumper there, and then locate and glue the bumper into the body. And this is similar to the rear, except that it sits on top of the points on the body mount, and then you finish with the skid plate underneath. Now some final details will be added here with the wipers and the door handles and the turn signals. So we're going to paint those flat black and install the wipers to the cowl, the handles to the doors with some cement. And you can use some of the thick cement to make sure they stay in position and dry correctly. You can continue to adjust that. Now add all of the decals that are left, and if you're using the ones that I used, you're going to start with the side decals. They're the longest, and they've got cutouts for the door hinges and handles if you didn't place them earlier. And then place the hood decals last there. I use some setting solution for just the large side and hood decals. As I mentioned, sometimes you won't need them, but you should have it available just in case, and that helps conform them to all the contours. If you chose the assembly the way I did, you'll have just a few pieces and a couple of decals left over for your stash. Well, there you have it. This kit is a lot of fun to build. It's a real nice display unit, and it brings out the excitement that Jeep often engenders in us. And if I were you, I'd buy one and put it on my shelf. We hope you like this step-by-step premium model kit review. And so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right of any of our reviews. And so we also could be found on Facebook or our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.